Hi everyone, so good to see you here. We're just going to dive into a little panel because obviously around the room we've got creators, we've got brands, we've got agencies, and a lot of that comes together and intersect in a really amazing way. And fortunately enough, we have people who over the years have either started off on Twirl as a creator and then maybe transitioned into working more on the brand side, and alternatively we've got brands who've worked with us and realized, hey, UGC is something I could do as well, and ended up on the creator side. So that's who we've got here, and of course, details are everything here. So yeah, going to be a bit of a discussion, which I'll try my best to lead. But yeah, let's get into it. So to start with, let's just give a brief intro to everybody here. Tell us your name, a bit about your journey, how you started, either on the brand or creator side, and maybe what led you to cross over. Okay?
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I work at Pooch&Mutt, which is a fun dog nutrition brand. I actually had a bit of an unconventional way in, so I started out as essentially like a creator. Very long-winded background, but I was in a girl band, I was a singer, so I sort of had a social media following and was like, I hate the word influencer because I don't have big enough following, but I kind of was. And then COVID hit, everything ended with the band, and I looked for a job in marketing. So I started out as an intern at Pooch&Mutt, and now I sort of run all of our social media and work really close with all of the brand team on our campaigns. And we've been with Twirl for a long time now, so it's probably like 2 to 3 years. And as soon as we signed up for Twirl, I was like, I'm missing a trick because I could do this. Like I know what I'm doing in the sort of what the brands want, so I signed up as creator really early on, and I've been sort of doing both with Twirl for about 2 years now. So yeah, that's me. I'm going to pass you on.
So I don't think I'm up there, I was in that position. But I work for Twirl as a community manager, so I make sure that creators are nice and taken care of. I try to produce resources that can help them become better, so obviously our brands are super happy with the content they create. And I also am a creator, so I'm Pilar's sister, she's the operations lead at Twirl. And she introduced me to UGC, and she just told me I could actually make money making stupid videos, which I had been making my whole life. So I signed up for Twirl, and then I got the role here, so it's been amazing. And now I'm freelance UGC creator and community manager. It's been great.
Hi everyone, my name is Anushka. I have a weird journey. I actually started my career very young. I was just 18 when I entered the corporate world, and I was actually a data analyst, so this has nothing to do with what I do now. But people don't realise it's actually a quite nice mix and match because you need data to find results in videos like UGC. So I started with that, and I soon realised that my real calling was the creative side of the world. So I started my own business and sort of freelanced in sort of content and leading creative strategy before that was even a word. And yeah, UGC was something that came naturally to me, but I didn't find out it was really called that until I met Rachel. And so a client I had a couple of years ago, I was leading the content and sort of social community there, and I onboarded Twirl as one of our sort of partners. And yeah, the rest is history. Now I sort of do the creating and the behind the scenes stuff. So as you can see up there, I work for a credit card company called Zabel. So I lead the creative strategy and digital content there. And most recently we've run a TV campaign, which is, if you don't know already, is very volatile. So things like UGC can really help with that branding element and the awareness of that. So yeah, it's a bit about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Izzy. That's my little dog Cody, who's really unimpressed, which he usually does when I try and make him take part in my UGC content. But I work for teamwork.com, which is a B2B SaaS software company, and we essentially have project management software. I've also had experience working in B2C. I've worked for brands like Smirnoff, Pims, Weller, so I've got quite varied experience. I've worked in marketing and social media for about 12 years now, which is just crazy, and started UGC relatively recently, only about 6 months ago, and found Twirl when I was doing my research, and it's all been really going well. I've worked really closely with influencers creators and UGC creators in my day-to-day role, and just thought I want a slice of that pie when I saw what we were paying them. So yeah, that's how I got into UGC myself.
Amazing. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. It's fine? You can keep that mic alongside. That's fine. All right. So it's so interesting to hear, obviously, the crossover either from brand to creator, creator to brand. And so you've obviously seen the shift over the last couple of years, and how, 3-4 years ago, UGC was just, pictures you'd take of a product and post to your story, and a brand would give you a little heart, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, they liked it. But now it's a full-on, thing that people pay for and is really great. So I'd love to first start with, what's one of the biggest shifts that you've seen in the creator or the UGC space in the past year that maybe brands and creators aren't adapting to enough? Because even though it has been around now, there's still a little bit of pushback on what that means and what that looks like. So maybe Lauren, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think a shift has been that more and more people and brands are utilising UGC. I think something that is a challenge is they're not necessarily thinking about what's happening right now. So I think for me, something that brands could do better is to definitely look at what's trending and jump on it quickly and use UGC in that way, rather than just sort of, consistently putting out the same review style testimonial UGC, because I think actually, it might not be the hugest converter, but it's going to drive that awareness and that engagement and drive people to your site, which essentially is what you want to get your brand out there, especially if you're a small brand. So I think that's something that I think we'll see more of a shift towards as time goes along. I think the way that people use UGC is definitely going to change and go into more sort of trending content rather than just sort of those very semi-testimonial review style stuff.
And Isa, maybe more from the creator side, what have you seen shift a lot in the last year and a half?
I actually wanted to answer this from the creator perspective, because I think what's happening to UGC is that brands are seeing the value, but not all brands, and this is leading UGC to be more professionalized in a sense. So some creators, I feel like they're becoming really, really good, really experts at what they do and the strategy behind the content, making content that really actually converts and brings those sales or awareness to those brands, whilst others are staying behind. And I think that gap is becoming bigger every year as creators that have been in it for 2 years become even more experts, and the new ones have so much more to catch up on. And I think brands will start seeing that those creators with expertise, they become more expensive, but their content works, whilst the new ones are being just offered gifted collaborations or really cheap fees, but their content might not actually be at the level of those really expert creators. So I think that gap is just becoming bigger and bigger, and it's going to cost creators more to catch up, unless you have those skills already, where you're maybe a photographer or a videographer or something like that. But yeah, that's what I've thought and what I've seen recently with the creator community also that I follow and engage with.
Anushka, I think you work in a very highly regulated space as well, so you've probably seen kind of how to balance that strict messaging, but also still have the creator's authenticity with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have the FCA on our back at least twice a week, so definitely a different experience. I think I would agree with Izzy that with the way that creators are working, brands do want to cheapen out, and that is unfortunately the way the world works. That's just ROI and measurement for a lot of brands, especially in the space I'm in fintech. But one shift I will say from a brand side is that you'll notice a lot of people are now hiring UGC and content leads and things that we do as creators and brands. I would say a year ago wasn't common, as common as it is now, and people are actually willing to pay people the amount that it takes to work that hard and provide results. And it is down to that experience. People like myself and the rest of the people on this panel, we've been here for years, and I think that's the difference between someone just starting out and that shift between being able to actually produce content that works. One thing I will say is that the shift is definitely a perspective of the scripting. I think when we first started with UGC and the world heard this word, it was more like influencer creating content, like that kind of vibe. Whereas now it's very strategic. There will be a group of people that work behind that. Essentially today that's Twirl. And being able to work behind the scenes and actually know how to script something and creatively strategize that is what will, I guess, cause the creator's content to go viral in an ad set or whatever. And I think it's actually the inside details, the intricate things that people don't notice that actually lead that creative to be good, because editing and content, this is more of a character thing. I think you either have it or you don't, which is quite, like, I know it's brutal but it's true. You either have it or you don't, and if you have it, that creative strategy will work for anyone. So it's just about having sort of all those sort of working cogs to make the right video. So definitely say that's the shift that I've noticed.
Shift I would say I've noticed the most is leaning more towards authenticity over perfection. I think historically brands have really strived for that really kind of hi-fi looking content. And when I say lo-fi, I don't mean low quality. It just needs to be really authentic, natural, genuine. It can be on really high quality iPhone or camera, but it should be like talking to your best friend as opposed to it being a voiceover script. And I'm seeing a lot of the briefs that I get are still those kind of scripted briefs, and they have a really clear voiceover. And that's fine for some ads, but I think we'll start to see a shift more in terms of giving UGC creators more freedom to be creative, write their own scripts, write scripts as if they're talking to their best friend, recommending a product, and I think that would be a lot more powerful.
I totally agree. And I think, having that balance between the brands and the creators is something that there's often that disconnect between the two, where as a creator, you obviously want what's best for the brand, you want the content to perform well, and from the brand side as well, it's like you really want the creator to be authentic in that, and kind of having that partnership together. So let's talk a little bit about how you can kind of bridge that disconnect. What's something you wish maybe brands understood more about fostering that connection, or what you as a brand wish creators understood better about having that balance? Is it scripts sharing? Is it letting them run wild? I'd love to hear your different thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think from me, and to be fair, even my team could do this better. On the brand side, I definitely feel that sometimes there's such an idea of what you want and this vision, but you have to remember that this creator is doing this from home. They don't necessarily have access to all the things that you want them to do. Like sometimes it will be like, go out and have a gathering with your friends. I'm like, well, how am I going to get all my friends together and say, look, I'm not paying you for this. Can you just sit here and be filmed for like 10 minutes and I'll just say different things? You've all got to have a script. Like, you need to be a bit more realistic about what you're asking for, because creators aren't paid loads of money. And essentially, I think sometimes you're trying to create like a branded video, but getting a creator to do it, and it's not realistic. You've got to think about what you're asking and think, is this realistic? Would they be able to do this from home? Are they going to have the resources? Is it viable? And also kind of strip back that expectation, like Izzy was just saying, of it being like completely perfect, because that's not what it's there for. UGC is there to feel like, that person is giving their authentic experience of your product or your whatever you sell. And it should feel like that. It shouldn't feel like a script. And I think sometimes that disconnect comes in expecting so much from that creator that you're not being realistic about what you want them to achieve. And actually the results will probably just be flat, because it will feel that way as well.
Yeah, no, as a creator, I think I agree. I was actually talking to a client today, and they were asking me, as a creator, do you prefer if we give you everything done and then you just follow the script? And I was like, I didn't know how to answer, because for me, it really depends on the creator's skills as well, because I am aware that not every creator has the power to transform just a very, very basic brief into a high-performing video. So I think it's a fine line between the brand providing too strict of a script, where the creator has no leeway and nothing to do about the script, they just have to do it. Even sometimes, as you said, it includes things that maybe they can't do, maybe they don't have access to. maybe they have to film in a beautiful bathroom, but my bathroom is orange and I would like to film in my bedroom instead. So I think it's about that balance between providing a really good brief, and I think that's where brands can really improve. I think on Twirl, because Rachel already reviews briefs and they really make sure that the briefs are something that creators can do, but I think a really good brief gives the tools for the creator to actually make a good video without losing maybe the key points that the brand wants to convey or the key messages that they want to make sure they really, really emphasize on the video. So I think briefing is a whole skill of itself, to be honest, for brands. I really value a good brief.
I think it's an interesting one. I agree on both of your points. I think it's that blended answer that works for me. At the end of the day, you are going to want to have some sort of authenticity, but my controversial take is that the authenticity, unfortunately, is fake. So there is a way to create that authenticity without coming off as fake. This is like really twisted, I know, but yeah, it really does make sense. You are, as Isa just said, if you didn't hear her, that you know, you're actors, and I think that skill set is very desirable, and when you find it, you hold on to it as a brand, and when you are it, you know you're it. And like, for example, full transparency, Isa is one of the brand that I work at. One of our top creators, we constantly pick her for like majority of our campaigns. The reason we do that is because I know that I can trust her. So, you know, if I want a quick turnaround or I want something done that is creative, I know that I don't have to micromanage Isa or Twirl for that matter. But it's like, you know, she's gonna do it either way. And it's that thing, like you said, that either you have it of that skill set of being able to be authentic and have those creative ideas. And you know, my team, I mean, my manager would tell you, like, when we choose Isa, we don't really care like what the script is because we know it's her, you know. But then if you choose someone new, you don't know them yet. So you have to have that sense of here's a hook and this is maybe what we're trying to aim for, and yeah, the guidance is there. But as the Twirl team will tell you, we don't ever fully script out. We always try to let, you know, the creator have their turn, and then if it's maybe not on par with what we're expecting, we can provide feedback. But I do think some creators just have a knack for it, and also some brands will just understand it. I will say that the sort of industry I'm from in finance is like the most boring thing ever, but we are like one of the most creative fintechs out there. We try to be outside of the box, and so because I have that control of being able to be outside the box, that's why you'll never find my briefs to be scripted, whereas a lot of the time maybe people don't have that luxury. So you also have to see it from a brand's perspective. If they have the FCA to answer to, it's not really their fault. So you have to sort of, yeah, it's weird. It's a mix and match for sure.
Yeah, I agree with all of those points. Very good points. I think for me, it's really important as someone that works in social media and understands marketing, and a lot of us do, especially when you work both sides and when you've been a UGC creator for a long time. I think some of the things that I miss when I get a brief is seeing information about what they're actually trying to achieve. So they write the brief, they write the script for you, they give you the product, and then they're like, right, go. But actually, if I understood what their objective was for that ad, where it was going, is it organic only? Are they going to put paid spend behind it? What platforms will they be on? That would actually really help me have the information I need to make that content work best for what they need. And I think that's one of the things that is missing. So although I don't think the brief should be super prescriptive, having some of that context in there is really helpful to have. And I also think just a mutual understanding of each other and respect for each other, good communication. I think it's really easy from both sides to kind of underestimate how much work is going into that, how many layers of feedback from a brand side, how many rounds of, you know, video edits you've done or clips you've filmed for that one short clip. I think we all just need to really appreciate that we're all just trying to do our best ultimately, and just have respect for each other's time and the effort that's gone into it all. And yeah, improving briefs would help everyone, because it means that the rounds of feedback become less, everyone gets paid quicker, they get the content out quicker. So yeah, not being super prescriptive, but just making sure the information you need is actually in the brief, because I think they're missing that a lot.
Yeah, I love that. And also, like, as the person, like you mentioned, that is reviewing the briefs before they go live. You know, I'm trying to think like the brand, I'm trying to think like the creator as well. And, you know, I think something as well is that as both sides, like you can ask as well. I think there's this misconception that maybe like, oh, if there's a middleman, you no longer have that connection, right? But it's like, I still think that can come through. And, you know, the Twirl team, we're so available in like, if the brand has a question for the creator has for the brand, and in facilitating that, you know, script sharing as well to make it authentic and to make it align with the brand values. So thank you for that, yeah. And talking on that, kind of shifting it a little bit, but what sort of maybe misconceptions, it can be short or a bit long form if you want, maybe about being a creator when you were on the brand side, or on the flip side, what's a misconception you had maybe about something from the brand side that you didn't realize until you were doing so? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Who wants to go?
I guess I'll go. I was gonna just say, I didn't have many because I kind of got thrown into this industry like in the deep end, so I didn't really have time to think about anything. But I would say the fact that brands are very unapproachable and very like detached from us, because I think we all see them on billboards and we see them on advertisement on social media, and it just feels like they're a different entity from what we are as individuals, which I think is also what UGC is trying to bridge, actually. But I think once you start working with brands, you just realize we're just humans on the other side, and we're all just trying to, as you said, do our best. We're just trying to work and, you know, produce results for either the brands we're working for or our bosses, if you're a brand. So I think just understanding that there's two humans on both sides, and that, yeah, you just have to sometimes make sacrifices and compromises, and that's okay. Like, everyone is just looking for the overall best work to be created, and not to nitpick your work or to criticize what you just done or your shot is not looking right enough. No, it's just like they have their bosses that they have to justify this to, and they're just trying to do their best. So I think that's the main thing.
I think for me it's difficult in B2B because they're a little bit behind with kind of marketing formats, and UGC isn't really something that's been explored that much. And the way that I was able to kind of sell in UGC as something that we did need to do for teamup.com was essentially kind of talking the language of the stakeholders. So they all really cared about data, and they're very data driven. So for me, it was talking about the stats behind it. So the fact that consumers see UGC as 50% more trustworthy than other marketing types, and 20% more influential. And those stats hold a lot of power when you've got people that are making decisions and holding the purse strings. And I think one of the things that is also a misconception is that having more creators and more faces, the better. Because actually for me, I think there's a lot of power in having genuine brand advocates that actually genuinely love your product in the way that you said, Nush, that you work with Isa a lot, and she loves your product and she does what you want to do in a really great creative way. And I think there's a lot of power in using actually the same creators, and I think then that leans in more to kind of how we're seeing EGC evolve. So brands like Currys are doing that so amazingly and in a really fun way. And when has Currys ever been on anyone's map for social media until kind of the last year or so? But when you use the same faces, it builds a lot more trust with brands, and it means that people kind of get to know that person, and it then kind of bridges that gap between UGC and EGC, because as a viewer you're then like, oh, does this person work for the company? I don't know if you guys have seen the Beauty Crop social media, but they use a lot of their internal employees for their content, and they also create UGC for them as well. So then there's that kind of mix of that they're a real brand advocate, they love the product, they know a lot about the product, which is the power of EGC. They're experts in what they're talking about and what they're selling. And I think, yeah, that's probably the main misconception, is that you need to have fresh faces every single time you do a video.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, because I was hired as sort of EGC, I guess. Like, I manage digital content and the strategy, but I also, if you ever search up Zabel, it's literally my face and hers everywhere. Yeah. So I think the main misconception is one, that it's easy, right? I mean, everybody thinks they can be a creator or a strategist behind the scenes. Neither of those roles are particularly easy. I think as someone who's worked on both sides of the spectrum, I definitely think being a creator is harder. I think that when you're a creator, you don't know what the brand is thinking. You have to sort of rely on your own expertise. You're your own boss, you're your own everything. When you have a job at a firm, you're sort of directed and guided by everyone else that's behind you, and you have that support system. I think creators don't have that. So, like as I said, it's important to notice that you are two humans working behind the scenes. That would be my first point. The second point is, like for example, where I work, fintech, very boring, as I've said 4 times, but like it's like one of those places where they don't understand what UGC or content or strategy is. They just hired me and they were like, this girl looks good, she's done it for 4 years, she must be good. And so they're right, but like also when you get there, you're sort of like, okay, well now this is not going to just be my face. And as much as I understood that at the start, it was more a thing of, okay, well, Anushka's just joined us, she's going to create this first set of videos, show us how it's done. I then thought, well, Twirl is a great way to sort of implement controlled content, and I think that is where the EGC to the UGC shifted for us, and they wouldn't have known that had they not hired someone who worked in UGC and worked in this sort of space before and has been a creator. Only someone with both sides of the spectrum experience would be able to highlight that is what's missing. And now we have creative winners all the time, and they actually work. So yeah, I would say that's the second one. And last of all is that the sort of UGC that people often refer to is primarily for organic social, but people forget that the paid social is a huge market, and I think that market is the one that is currently being tapped into. And this is where UGC creators are making their money. And who on earth would think a finance firm wants to hire a UGC creator? No one. But it is actually a really big thing now, and lots of firms like Monzo and a lot of our competitors do the same thing. They're learning from us though, but yeah, like they'll tap into that because it is something that works for lead gen. So I would say yes, UGC is great for organic social, but it's actually really great for all the things that the boring old directors want. It's actually really great for those things, and lead gen and ROI is a big topic amongst those sort of conversations, and UGC is that way forward. But the misconception is that because they're doing something creative, it can't possibly contribute to something so money oriented, but the reality is it does. So yeah, that's my hot takes.
Yeah, our UGC is actually used more for our ad content than it is organic. We forget to post it on organic social. But yeah, it does drive ROI, and the stakeholders are now seeing the value. But my misconception would be, and I suppose this is from both the creator and the brand, is that you get this really descriptive brief and script from the brand. I think the misconception as a creator is that you can't message Rachel or Pilar and say, do you know what? I've got a really good idea with this content, like with this product. I'm going to take their script, but I think I can make it better and I can do something amazing with it and actually put that forward to the brand. I think the misconception is that the brand is so set on those briefs that they're not open for your creativity. Sometimes they'll hit back and be like, no, this is what we want, this is how we want it. But other times they're going to be like, yes, we didn't think of that. And I think that power as a creator to actually put your ideas forward and not just take the brief as like, this is what I have to do, is actually a misconception in itself, because if you have a better idea, why not put that forward? The worst they can say is no.
Thank you. Yeah, I have 2 more questions. Is that okay? Yeah, we've got time. The first, they obviously tie into one another, but the first one is, I think a lot of creators want to understand this as well, is how are you actually measuring success in your campaigns? And so what advice would you give to creators who maybe want to better understand the metrics, just for their own sake, but also so that they can continue to pitch themselves to brands and show their value, like what you were saying about kind of getting that internal buy-in. Let's take a step first to be like, what does that actually mean when you're measuring what success looks like, if you don't mind?
So this is where I think what you were saying about the briefs is going to become really powerful in terms of knowing, I think it was UGC as well, it was like knowing where that content is going and what it's for, because we will measure differently based on how we run that campaign. So if it's a brand awareness campaign and it's literally just to push our brand out there, for people to see us, you know, for that sort of exposure, then the metrics we're going to be looking at is like engagement, click-throughs, you know, how people are reacting to that content. Are they enjoying it? Are they clicking through to the website? It's less about conversions and less about ROAS and CPA. So that type of content would be the more sort of like trending content, the more sort of like real hooky content that's just going to get you listening and make you interested. However, if we're running like a conversion style content, you know, the metrics we're going to be looking at are ROI, ROAS, CPA, how many people are clicking through, the conversion. So they're very different. And I think that maybe should be put to the creator. Not all creators are going to understand that if they don't work on a brand level in marketing. So you have to also put it into layman's terms and say, like, you know, this is just, I don't know, like a really hooky piece of content to get people interested in the brand. You know, put it in a way that makes it understandable for those not in marketing. But I do think it's maybe important to give a bit more context of that objective, because actually it's going to help them understand why we're making the content and what it's for.
I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Lauren. I think amongst that, there's always something different for different brands. Like my full-time work is obviously finance, and then part-time I currently work for a travel agency, for example. So the way we measure campaigns at this travel firm is very different to the way we measure campaigns in the finance firm. The travel agency has millions of followers, so a lot of the time it is just about the conversion, because they don't care about who's following them next. We've got, I think it's like almost 1 million followers now, so you know, we're pretty stat in the brand awareness. But the fintech, you know, we're new to the whole. We just launched a TV campaign. Like, you know, we want to be able to equally sort of empower the brand awareness at the same time as conversions. At the end of the day, we're a credit card firm, not a charity. So the credit card is the main thing. That's, you know, basically why I have my job, or any of the people in my team work. So, you know, for me, I would say CPC, which is cost per conversion, for anyone that doesn't know. That's okay. Same sort of thing though, trust me, it's all the same. You get used to it. But it's sort of like, that is the thing that I'm looking at. Like, after the impressions, I want to see, you know, what is actually the cost per each credit card complete. Like, who is taking out a credit card, how many of you, and what is the cost. And, you know, like, I remember one of the first videos we did with you was like £3.20, and I was like, I'm going to be hiring her again. So, yeah, so I think that is a main sort of tactic there to sort of advocate for. Maybe creators should be asking, you know, through Twirl, like with Rachel, what does this brand want? Like, do they want the CPC to be high or low, or do they want, you know, the brand awareness and the impressions to be higher? Like, what is the goal here? And I do think hooks, from someone who scripts a lot, hooks matter based off of those metrics. So if you do a brand awareness campaign, your scripts are going to look a lot different to a conversion campaign. One thing I always say is, when you're, you know, converting for the credit card, we need to mention the product in like the first 10 seconds. Like, it can't be any later. Even that is a bit of a stretch. So we always start with a problem, and then there's the agitation and the solution. That's a framework. If you want to take that from me, you can. Don't tell my boss. And that framework is really helpful in the scenario of a cost per conversion campaign. But something like yours that is, you know, brand awareness, you'd probably not want to take that route. So it's all dependable on each like campaign, you know?
We're using UGC slightly differently. So Teamwork's quite new to the Twirl platform, but we've been using it to help promote our new brand campaign. And essentially what we're trying to do is make B2B not boring, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. So if you haven't seen it, we've got a new brand video out, and it's part 3 about the client campaign. It's basically a parody kind of Batman style parody, which sounds really silly, but it's actually really good, about all the pains of working with clients. So I think you guys will all find it really funny. Check it out on LinkedIn. Episode 3 has just come out. So essentially we have been creating UGC to promote that campaign. So actually we just have a real focus on community building organically. So we haven't really been tracking, anything like conversion for these ones. It's just been engagement, it's been shares. Shareability is very underestimated. So we want to make sure that all of our UGC is really shareable, really resonates with our audiences, like those really kind of laugh out loud moments, and they want to share it with their friends, colleagues, family. So yeah, we focus on those kind of engagement, shares, comments, and we're then tracking kind of sentiment and community over time. So it's quite a long game for us, and we are looking at maybe boosting some of the organic posts. But our focus is brand awareness, and I sit in the brand team. So our kind of funnels in terms of how we shift our audiences through the funnels means that we get to kind of do all the fun brand stuff at the top of the funnel, and then we kind of hand over the more boring conversion stuff, which works fine.
Amazing. Thank you. Last question for me. More so on like what's the main one thing you want somebody to take away from today and kind of tie that to, we mentioned kind of getting that internal buy-in, whether that's convincing your boss, hey, we need more budget for this, or as a creator saying, are you sure you just want one video? Like maybe let's try 2, like maybe let's try a couple more variations. So what's next for you in your UGC journeys? What are you looking forward to, and how can we, get the word out there to make sure people understand the value of UGC to amplify customer voices?
It's a very big question.
Sorry.
My brain is like. So first, from a brand perspective, I think just remember why you're doing it. Like at the end of the day, remember who your customer is. Remember what they're going to be looking for. Stop thinking about you, your campaign, your vision. Think about your customer. Like, are they going to resonate with it? Are they going to click through? I work in a dog company. Cute dogs are great, but are they going to want to view the food and the treats that you're selling? Like, you need to remember the customer at the end of it. And then as a creator, I think the things that I'm looking forward to is more brands being open to creativity on the whole. And just the growth of UGC. I think in the last 2 years, I've been hammering at the big bosses in my company to wake up. Social media is not just nothing anymore. Social media is a first touch point for most people that are your customer. Anyone that's looking at a customer base of 35 to 20-year-olds, they're going to go to your social media to search for your product. They're not going to go to Google. You find a restaurant you want to go to, where do you go? Their Instagram, their TikTok, to see what food they do. It's your first place. It needs to look good, it needs to feel good, it needs to be a good representation of your brand. And I think the minute stakeholders wake up to that, the minute they're going to succeed. I've been telling them.
I think from a creator standpoint, I think we really have to see the value that we provide. I mean, these girls are telling us we are making these brands money. And I think sometimes creators, when they're starting, they don't realize. And I think you have to value your work. And with this also comes develop your skills. Learn about what is the ROI? What is the cost per click, per conversion? Know these things, because at the end of the day, you're making strategic content. And if you don't know how it's being used, what it's doing for the brand, who's their target customer, how does knowing who the target customer is help me make a better video? All of these things, they go hand in hand with making very pretty and cute videos with very good personality. So I think spending time learning about marketing, learning about your value, and making sure you learn also how to negotiate and bring that to the table. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know how to do that, if you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to believe you, and then conveying that message is one step further. And negotiation is also key as a creator. So I think learning those things will take your UGC business to the next level. And yeah, it'll make you a lot of money.
Yeah, I think what that echoes from both of you is actually one of my biggest tips from my entire career is confidence. And I think confidence in any sense is the most attractive people will say yes to anything you sell if you're confident enough to do it. So as a creator, you need the confidence to negotiate, as we say. You guys make us a lot of money, so ask for it back. A lot of the time as well, if you know that the brand is making money, trust me, they have the money to pay you. Don't just double down, because they have the money. It's just that they're stingy, as any other business will be, right? So yeah, that's from a creative standpoint. I think from a business standpoint, you also need to have the confidence to believe in your ideas. I think, again, as a creative, and you said you were doubling down on your bosses, I think I'm the only girl on my team, and I think sometimes that is a bit, I've been doing it for a few years now, but sometimes you can just think, oh, I'm going to say this idea, and these guys are going to look at me like I'm insane, and that's okay. If you're making the money, it's okay to look a little bit insane at the start, because at the end they'll believe in your source and who you are and what you bring to the table, and that's always been my strategy. If you want to follow. When I first started, for example, it was my idea to let the sort of briefs and twirl be guided. No one else wanted to do that. All my bosses were like, no, we need to script everything and be super serious, and they didn't say that, but you can tell from the tone. Whereas I was like, no, let's just give them a chance, and here we are today, very successful through Twirl, and a lot of our UGC comes to credit to that, to letting people step in and tap into their creativity. So because of that one confident decision I made, it's changed the trajectory of what success looks like for our ad sets. And so I think it's important to have that confidence in both angles, as a creator and a brand. And another thing I'd say as a brand is actually just to relax, let things take their course. I think we get caught up in, numbers and the ROI and all the other things that we've been chatting about today, but sometimes it is just about trusting the process. It's kind of a life tip, but also a UGC tip that, sometimes you are going to give it weeks for it to perform. I know that some of the videos we've done on Twirl, they take a while. Sometimes
they won't always work.
No, they won't, okay. And that's okay. But if 80% of them work, low-key, who cares about the 20%? That's the mindset you need to have. And sometimes I've put things in creative testing and it doesn't blow up for 4 weeks, and then we'll have something blow up for 4 weeks, and then it will go silent, and then in 6 weeks later it's blowing up again. So social media is a game. Unfortunately, it's an algorithm game. No one knows. Even the people that tell you they've worked at Instagram or Snapchat, they're all lying. It's none of it's real. It's all a game, and so you just have to be part of the game. And once you get there, that is the sort of solution, to just relax and test out your ideas. So yeah, confidence and be creative.
I think it's going to sound a bit cheesy, actually, but being human is our superpower in a landscape of AI becoming so prominent, and actually anything that you see online now, people then question and they're like, is that a real dog with a monkey on its back, or did AI make that video? And we're just questioning everything that we're now seeing, and I think in that there's actually so much power and potential in UGC, and power in being human, being authentic, being genuine, and essentially just really making sure that we're actually storytelling, we're sharing our human, real, lived experiences, and that kind of follows on from what we were saying around moving away a little bit from the scripts, because actually I would much rather hear someone talk about their skincare journey and how they've gone from being really self-conscious about their skin and now they're really confident in a genuine way, rather than this product has X, Y, Z ingredients and you should buy it because it's hydrating and plumping and all the things that you're told you should say. I'd much rather hear that from someone who's genuinely struggled with their skin and their confidence, and they're sharing their real, authentic story. So I think really making sure that we're coming across as human, we're coming across as authentic, and what you said, Nush, around kind of, I know we're still acting, but making sure that we're kind of harnessing those real experiences as much as we can while we're creating that content.
That is the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, all 4 of you, for joining us today. That was amazing. And to the audience as well, thank you for listening throughout. Come up, let's keep these discussions going on with one another. We've all got different perspectives to share. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. We've still got lots of drinks available, so please help yourself. there's no, I mean, maybe there is a limit, but there's no limit, okay? Enjoy yourself. And yeah, have a great evening. Thank you so much for coming.